And we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today with our next founder interview on Vibe Space with Yan, founder of Cepien AI. Please, Yan, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here. I am the founder or co-founder and CEO of Cepien AI. Come from 2 decades of design industry and now building a product for my own industry that helps product teams move 120 times faster.
No, that's great. So that is a bold claim. You help product and design teams to speed up tasks that would take 40 minutes up to an hour to like 10 minutes or less, sometimes even seconds, right? Tell me how that works.
Well, I'll give you a little correction there. It's not 40 minutes or an hour, it's 40 hours to 10 minutes. That's our transformation. What we essentially do is we shrink the entire process that remained largely the same for the last 3 decades, which is data synthesis of your customer data and user data. That takes typically about 40 hours today with all the AI copilots that exist. And that comes from studies that we conducted with people who are using other platforms and other tools. How do they utilize AI and how do they speed up their process? Our product specifically is ingesting data, unstructured, uncleaned, or anything, just raw data. And on the other side, we spit out tagged user issues, customer insights, and recommendations within 10 minutes.
No, that's great. And just for me to get a little of the origin story here, before you had this idea of building Sapien AI like it is, you worked before with design and product tasks. And tell me a little more how you got this idea on why you saw that this was a big problem in the industry to solve.
Well, I originally had this specific problem myself years ago, probably around 20, I would say 2017, 2018. I was head of design at another startup. We're scaling rapidly. We just raised, I think, our Series B, and we are hiring exponentially. And suddenly, I found myself in a conference room with a bunch of other executives, and we had to make decisions essentially on what we need to be building next as a company in our quarterly roadmap planning. And it was a fight, to say the least. It was basically arguments here and there. Each executive is pulling their direction of, we think we need to build this, or no, we have to build that. We can't sell if we don't have this feature. Our customers are going to walk away if we don't have that feature. Like it's a mixture of a lot of different information that comes from every direction. And so us as a product and design team, our job essentially is to really be the voice of the customer, the user in those kind of conversations, where we are the ones who conducting the research, we're the ones who conducting user interviews, we're the ones who are doing usability testing and so forth. And so while I was experiencing that specific problem, I tried to figure out how do I make this process better where A, we're making a lot better decisions, B, we're making them a lot faster, and C, they're a lot more accurate and they're actually in compliance or requirements of our customers or their needs, and additionally meeting our business and financial goals. And so I basically spent a weekend trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And I came out with a very specific process that I came back the next week, and luckily the co-founders allowed me to implement it. Which,
That was even before GPTs and
oh
ChatGPT,
yeah,
right?
way before all of that.
Amazing, yeah.
Way before all of that. It was manual process. We, as a team, we used to get access to all of our departments data sources, such as the intercoms and the HubSpots and the Confluences and the Jiras and whatever else. And as a product team, we became ultimately like the source of truth, kind of like unified source of truth. Pull all the data in, synthesize it, understand it, try to find common trends, and then recommend to the overall committee of executives of what we think we should be building or concentrating on as an entire company every quarter based on this kind of collective data harvesting, if you will. Now, later on, 2019, I went on and writing about it. It was published on UX Collective magazine. And in 21, I actually wanted to write a book because I've spent the next couple of years from that article period training and educating other design and product leaders on how to use this framework in their organizations. And I love mentoring, I love coaching, but being an educator and telling people how to deploy my framework was a little bit tiresome. So I decided to write a book in 2021. I wanted to take a year, write a book. I told my wife, at the time, fiance, I said, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to write a book. She said, sure. But then another startup came knocking on my door. I joined them and the book went to the shelf. I basically wrote only the first chapter. And so I came back to the book in late 2023. And that was already post me working at an AI company for about a year and a half, helping them discover their flagship product, scaling that product from 0 users to, I think we got to over 700 within a couple of months. And when I went back to my book and decided to, you know what, now I'm going to take the time. When I left that position as head of design at that company, I said, I'm going to take a year now. I'm going to write a book. And as I was rereading the first chapter that I wrote back in 21, something clicked. You know, people say you can have this kind of like an aha moment, if you will, and I think I had that aha moment where I realized that my framework with the new available technology today, which is AI, can be turned into a product. And that's how my company was born.
Interesting. So instead of reading the book and then applying the framework, you would use it as a context for the AI, and the AI would handle the process itself, right? And just to frame the pain correctly for the audience, a lot of companies, even big companies out there, are run in like impulsive decisions, not like data-driven decisions, right? So I want this button to be blue. Why? There's no number showing that the blue button converts better whatsoever. It's just a matter of taste, and a lot of companies are run like that. So this is a big problem for you to solve on product and design workflows, right?
Well, fun fact, in the last about 5 years, the tech industry lost over $4 billion to decisions made with incorrect product decisions made with incorrect data.
Only that?
And only that, yes. Only that, $4 billion. I mean, it's probably a little bit more now, with all the other companies shutting down and whatnot. But to be fair, right, you can't really blame people for making these decisions because data is a massive, massive piece of information that a lot of big companies, so think about, Meta, Google, Apple, all the big tech companies, they have divisions dedicated to harvesting and understanding data, and they typically hire data scientists and data analysts to do that. These are, in some instances, these are people with PhDs that spent ample amount of time being paid millions of dollars to understand even the smallest piece of information that can be and can lead to something staggering and something big, right? Like if you ever, whoever was watching this or listening to this podcast, I urge you to go and find a TED Talk. And I forgot her name. She's a woman who spent 2 years working on a like button at Facebook. Their team spent 2 years figuring out how to make this like button. Now, ultimately, it can feel and seem like such a silly thing. Why would you spend 2 years working on a single icon and a button? But to a Facebook economics, this like button was the pivotal moment in becoming the monstrosity of a company they are today.
These simple decisions, they sometimes carry a lot of weight, right? Sometimes the
Yes.
developers there are carrying, I'm going to make this button without bugs and all, but actually the why and where this button contributes is much more important, right? Like the scroll features of those social the social feed, right, for social networks, it was like a design decision at the beginning.
Yeah.
Sounded silly. Facebook was doing that, but now it's almost like a mechanical doom scrolling religion that is
Yeah, yeah. Similarly
so in
with
our
the
minds, right?
pull to refresh that was invented by a designer at Twitter many, many years
Yeah,
ago, right? Before that, people used to click a button to refresh something, right?
yeah,
So even this action saves you ample amount of time as a user, so you don't have to look for a button, press it, wait for something to happen. You just pull, there's an animation, so it's engaging. It's not like boring, and suddenly you have something new in front of you, right? So
yeah,
the sometimes the missed opportunities can be buried among your mountain of data. And if you don't have enough time, if you don't have enough resources, people, or the right people to understand that, then you'll miss that.
yeah. So yeah, tell me a little more about this click moment, because there are a lot of founders here in the audience, a lot of founders in our community following this channel, building with us in the Telegram channel or the Luma page, and most of them are still in this pre-seed, maybe even pre-idea stage, trying to figure out what is worth building and what is, for example, what's my mode? What inside you told you that you had the correct number of skills and networking and access and everything to build Sapien AI as it is today?
Well, I didn't have a network. Like I spent a decade at startups, but I've never been a founder. This is my first time, right? However, I have been a first design hire at 4 out of the 5 startups that I worked at. 3 of them eventually got acquired. One of them I'm still waiting to get acquired. um, and what I've learned during that period is from the founders that I worked with directly for so many years, you can make and break your company incredibly fast and incredibly easy if you're concentrating on the wrong things. And so I hear this a lot from the investor community of, you need to be looking for a product market fit, right? But another thing that I see and hear a lot from the investor community is founder market fit or founder problem fit, right? When you're looking at who you are, what you've been doing, where you were working, and whatnot, you can oftentimes, if you have a little bit of experience, if you're not just coming out of college or whatnot, if you did spend some time working in the industry, you can probably look back and pinpoint a few problems that you yourself experienced at some company that I worked at, whatever that might be, right? Either filling up documents, filing documents, I don't know, creating contracts, whatever your profession is or what you were doing. You can probably look back and see some of the things that people are struggling with and you think might actually be looking for a solution. Now, in that case, do not rush building things. That's kind of the worst approach you can do, is to immediately start building things. You have to validate your problem. How do you validate your problem? You do a hypothesis. You sit down and you write to yourself, here's the problem or list of problems that I think my industry or the industry I worked at or the industry I'm trying to build something for is experiencing in their day-to-day life. And what you do is you have to go out and find people who are in this specific space or industry and interview them. Now, when you're interviewing, do not ask them if they have this problem, because then you're planting a little seed that will not be very honest with you. What you want to understand is, if, for example, in our case, right? So when I was trying to validate our problem, even though I live the problem myself, I am selling to myself, I'm selling to people who in a position that I used to be in, design leaders, product managers, and so forth. Um, and I trained and educated a bunch of design leaders and product managers on the framework and helping them solve this problem. So I had an idea of validation, but it's been some time, so I wanted again to validate truly. And so I invited a few dozen design and product leaders. And what I did is I just went to Figma and I just threw together, I think it was 5 or 6 screens. No engineering, no coding, no functionality, nothing. Just visual screens showing here's what's going to be, quote unquote, the outcome and how it might solve X, Y, and Z problems. And so before I even showed them that, I came to them and said, okay, I want you to tell me, how do you live your life every single day? You come to work, what do you do? Do you have coffee? You don't. Do you check email? You don't. What do you do next? What do you do next? What do you do next? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you conduct research? How do you conduct user interviews? How does your team synthesizes that research? What kind of tools you're using? When you collect this information of understanding what people are using today to solve their specific problems, what kind of problems they're experiencing, and how urgent those problems are, then you can start building something very basic to just show them and say, okay, I heard you, I understood the problem. Here's what I think will be the solution. Now let's see what you think about that. And incrementally, you build up to the point where you feel more confident that you actually want to throw some engineering hours at it to actually build some MVP, put it out there, and have people using it. So whatever
Yeah.
idea you have to kind of validate it before you even write a single line of code.
So in your case for Cepien, you had two validations. First, they found the problem fit that you
Yeah.
obviously have all the qualifications needed for addressing this problem. You yourself would be one of your users of the own system that you created, right? When
Yep.
you were writing the book and all. And the second, the market fit. You also knew a lot of designers, a lot of product people, and there you could gather this early feedback, right?
Yep.
No, that's amazing. That's a good theoretical lesson in practice here. Everyone that's looking to start a startup, and I'll consider those two factors before going to market.
Yeah,
You
there are motions that everyone can take, and it's not rocket science. You start with a hypothesis. This is what I think people are feeling. Then you go and interview people to see if they're actually feeling it. Then once you do figure out that, oh yes, they actually do feel it, or in many cases you might discover that, oh, they're feeling something different that I didn't know about. Maybe now I can solve for this rather than what I thought originally, right? Just
yeah,
like if you think of a lot of these huge tech conglomerates today, they started as something else. Slack used to be a video game. Notion used to be a web design tool. Like
Nintendo
there's
used to be a card manufacturer.
yeah, like there's so many different. Like we started our company. We started with a different name. We started as Insight. Long story why and how we changed that. But we started with a notion, an idea that all our customers would need is essentially just data synthesis, nothing else, right? But then once we over time validated the problem, then we start validating solutions. And when we start validating solutions, even with MVP, 11 companies on the platform and 7 of them paying for it, we discovered that this was not enough. And so we had to pivot because what we were originally decided to build, while we were solving a problem, we weren't solving it end to end as our customers were looking for. We're solving just a small portion of it. So have to talk to your customers or users or future users or ICPs on a regular basis.
Yeah, and also, I guess the other side is very important for us to highlight. If you're not sure on your product market fit and you found a problem fit, do not invest 2 years of your life in building something before going to market. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that. Great founders that know how to code, that are using AI, but they spend too much time building something that's not worth it, right? In your case, you had it coming because you saw the fit early on, right?
Yeah.
No, that's great. Let's get into it then. Tell me a little more about Sapien. You told me that there are a lot of people that do a lot of decisions without information, but then you told me that this task at 40 hours, if I got it correctly, can be reduced to a few minutes. What's the magic there, yeah?
Well, if I give you my secret sauce, then it's not a very secret anymore, right? Um,
Just
no,
just a gist of it.
I'm not worried. We do have a provisional patent on our entire software, and we're in the process of full patent as well. So Our system is essentially, it is a unified data intelligence. If I would put it kind of like in simple, or not very simple, but 3 words, if you will, that's a unified data intelligence platform. So the way it works, we have multiple layers of different AI brains, and it's almost like an orchestration of predictive, extractive, and generative AI systems. This is where we have one brain that cleans your data, cleans everything, structures everything, goes and discovers things like spam to ignore, chatter to ignore. There's a lot of things that goes through like almost like a filtering mechanism once it ingests all of your data. Once it ingested all the data, it passes on to another AI brain that essentially deploys in-depth NLP to really understand what is happening across your entire user population and what is happening across your entire organization. So your business divisions, your finance division, your sales motions, marketing, your customer support, customer experience, and then so forth. And then you have another AI brain, if you will, that essentially intakes all of that and starts tagging everything, discovering things like user pain points, user annoyances, distrust, requests, delight, right? Like all of these things, we run a 3-dimensional tagging structure, which is based on emotional, behavioral, and technical tagging system. And from there, our system passes it along to another AI brain, which now it's more of our own LLM, because we have our own LLM that we're training. And then from there, it decides to how to solve these issues, the issues that it discovered, that another AI brain discovered. Now, how do you solve these things? When you solve these things, there are also compliances that our AI system has to comply with. Things like your business goals, your product goals, your usability goals, your maybe environmental goals, and so forth. And so based on all of these values, if you will, all of these compliances, it structures a list of insights and recommendations. So as an example, it discovered that you have, let's say your user population is 3 million people. Among those 3 million people, 20% of them asked you through whatever means to deactivate their account, right? Now, when they're asking for deactivation of the account, our system discovers it can be a pain point, but it can be a pain point. It can be an annoyance. It can be a distrust tag. It can be, I don't know, a usability flaw, or whatever the case might be. And so then our system tells you why they want to deactivate their accounts. So it will tell you that here's why X amount of your users asking to deactivate an account. In some instances, it may be they found a better solution. In some instances, it may be they just don't like your product. In some instances, it might be they're struggling with something very simple that can be fixed really quickly, and now you're reducing your churn rate, right? And in that case, it will say, here's why they're trying to deactivate their account, and here's what you should probably do in order to remedy this problem. Now, take it along more than that, Cepien essentially is we call it a little overlord of our platform that makes decisions on each one of these insights recommendations, what this thing needs to be. Should it be a PRD? Should it be a Jira ticket? Should it be a user flow? Should it be a wireframe in Figma? Should it be a code? And then it will give you those recommendations, and then it can execute on them. So essentially, it can bring your entire process from raw data to an actual user flow or a Jira ticket or a PRD in a single pipeline. And so on the other side is essentially, it shows you how to solve it, what to do, and it can go and build you some basic starting points for that. All of these parts, you have different AI brains, our own LLM, an agentic workforce that runs within the platform based on all of your information and data.
Interesting. So the 40 hours, when you say it's the time that would take to go through all of those complaints and emails and logs and then summarize it out, even
Yes.
using AIs. copilots out there, right?
Yeah, one of the biggest problems a lot of companies are suffering from, and it also comes from Atlassian's last year's report on the state of work, that they found that about 92 million minutes enterprise employees waste on looking for the right data annually. And so what happens is, on average, at enterprise level, they're deploying around 370 apps, tools. All of your intercoms and Zendesks and Jiras and Slacks and it's all software. Every software has data. This data lives everywhere across all departments. And so it takes an incredible amount of time, resources, and people to bring this data somewhat together and try to find trending things between all of that. Our system does it automatically. You just integrate us into over 300 different applications, and we just automatically unify everything.
Interesting. This brings the questions from Augusto. Augusto is watching here with us. Thank you all for participating. And he's asking exactly that. How would the system infer the reason for a churn or something? Will it find the reason from the system or from some emails or from some actions? How do you actually source this information?
So our AI system is not necessarily conversational. I mean, you can talk to your data within our platform. We do have that option, but we have a proprietary system built into the entire process that does all of this autonomously. So there's no need for you to go like you would do in any other tool today and try to keep prompting it until it gives you the right insight or the right information. Our system does it automatically. All you have to do is either say, yep, that, I approve that, go do that, or no, this does not look right, let me edit that, and then go do that. It's simple as that. The goal, so my personal mission, if you will, is that I'm not a data scientist, I'm not a data analyst. And so when I worked as a UX researcher, UX designer, and so forth, one of the most hated things of mine was trying to synthesize data, because that's not my strongest suit. I don't understand graphs and charts. I mean, I do to a degree, of course, but I cannot look at Mixpanel of all of their charts and graphs and everything and build those, dashboards to truly understand little intricate things. I don't know how to do that. I have
Like
never
BI.
had any designer on my team to do that.
Those BI dashboards.
Yeah, like I don't know how to do that. And believe it or not, 85% of design people, of design professionals across the entire tech industry have no freaking idea how to do that.
I imagine. Sometimes even when we are creating the charts, we don't know all of these numbers, and then 2% of 5% that it is 50% of 4%, and then it confuses everything, right?
Yeah. So when I set out to build my company, I had one mission and my personal desire is for the platform to communicate to me like a human being. Don't show
Yeah.
me graphs, don't show me charts. Just tell me what's wrong. Tell me
Interesting.
why my users are not converting. Tell me why my users are not buying my solution. And then tell me or give me an advice how to solve or deal with that issue. That's all. Simple.
So a little more on this magic. Of course, you don't need to disclose the patent and the stuff that is industry secret for Cepien, but a little more of like how I can trust it is correct. Is that a sentiment analysis, machine learning model, or you said like you're training your own LLM? It's that like a variation of some of the LLMs out there, or it's more just about agent orchestration? What direction are you going there with the AI stuff?
So we're with our own LLM. Our goal is to train probably the most sophisticated UX researcher, data scientist, and analyst in a single entity. And I'm not gonna. That's not secret, if you will. We're sharing that. We'll be sharing this more publicly later on as well. we're training our LLM on the entire UX glossary, which is a full collection of the last 20 plus years of UX research methodologies and analysis methodologies. In addition to that, on a full human bias codex. What it means really is it understands human biases, and it tries to avoid it, and it tries to find it in all of the things that are happening with your users and your team members. Now, outside of that, we're also working directly with a highly experienced UX researcher and mixed method researcher that worked with NYPD, UK government, Atlassian, and some other big companies. And he's helping us train our model exclusively and specifically on mixed method research methodologies to apply to understanding and synthesizing data.
Is this all built on top of a existing LLM that you're fine tuning?
Open source.
Open source LLM. So
it's not OpenAI. It's not Gemini. The thing is, while we use Gemini and OpenAI to some degree in certain portions of our process, the one thing that I've learned since starting in AI space, and I started working in AI before ChatGPT became a thing. I joined an AI company in mid 2022, before ChatGPT became a thing. And so the one thing that I've learned and what I see in the industry happening is that when a lot of these companies, you have a lot of companies that are claiming to do what we kind of do, or some degree of that. But if you're really looking under the hood, a lot of them utilizing their wrappers. The wrappers of ChatGPT, the wrappers of Gemini, the wrappers of Anthropic, Claude, or whatever the case might be. In that situation, you have AI that draws its knowledge from the World Wide Web. And one thing that I've learned building all the products that I built in my career is that you don't need AI that knows the entire world. You need an AI that expert knowledge of your world, your specific world, your specific data, with no distractions from best practices of 50 million other companies have nothing to do with your industry.
Sometimes this lot of information can overload AI, can even poison. You
Yes.
might have a lot of, you know how vibe coding works when you generate an AI, it's all purple background.
Yep.
Because this is World Wide Web, right? You probably want something that is more closer to your guidelines, to your
Yep.
best practices, right? So that's an interesting take there. Augusto is also asking about that. How do you prevent hallucinations? How do you prevent those wild behaviors? Maybe because you are constraining the information there, right?
So hallucination happens when AI gets confused about what you're asking it about and what it's related to. Again, I'm not an AI engineer, so I can't tell you the exact reasoning why it's hallucinating. But from my observation using AI, and mind you, I vibe code myself for my own things. Like I vibe coded a little language learning app for my wife in like 35 minutes in Gemini while she was looking for a book on Amazon to learn a language. So don't get me wrong, vibe coding is awesome. Not for complicated systems, for something simple, it's incredible. I love it. It's magic, really. Like I've been in the tech industry for over a decade, and I've been working in my space for 25 years. So believe me, I grew up with no cell phones. I was born in an analog era, and within my lifetime, seeing this magic, it's mind-blowing. But what I think, my opinion, right, take it with a grain of salt. Hallucinations happen when the AI does not fully understand who you are, has no contextual awareness of what your product is or your company is. It doesn't understand your industry. It doesn't understand your user. It doesn't understand what you're trying to build, what problems you're solving, why, and so forth. There's so many things that we as humans use and derive information from to make logical and make strategic decisions that AI cannot do, right? So in order for our systems to avoid hallucinations, we build in guardrails. we make sure that it relies on a very specific pieces of data information that flows from your organization. It only relies on your data. It does not go to the web to try and analyze other data. What it does from the web, it tries to analyze your competition. That it does. It tries to understand what the competition is doing right now. Yes. But it's not going to pull things from their product. It's not going to pull things of what people talking or saying about their product. Like it doesn't. It takes your data. It takes your KPIs, your business goals, your user persona or ICP document or information, and then tries to make a decision of what is the best course of action to solve X, Y, and Z problems that are discovered within your data pool of your users and your customers. It has nothing to do with other companies.
Yeah.
With that, I wanted to add another thing is we also have a confidence score within our system that will show you on each insight recommendation how confident Cepien is about this recommendation. And it will tell you why it's confident. And it will tell you why it's not confident.
So it's more like I was going to add, it's more like an orchestration platform. You can, going back to Augusto's question, you can prevent AI from hallucinating because you control the context that is coming in. You mentioned you have several brains, so I imagine those as agents. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you
You can
are,
call them agents, yes.
yeah, building some harness on what each agent is going to use. And you can even trace back on the original information that you're feeding to the agent. Here's why this policy doesn't allow you to do this and that, and right?
Yep.
Right?
Within our platform, once you click on any tag of a user issue, which can be a pain point, again, a distrust or annoyance or request or error or bug, it will open up a panel to show you all of the integrations that are currently running and every single piece of data where Cepien found, tagged, and discovered that specific piece of issue. So you can trace it back the entire lineage from the actual tag all the way to your data.
No, that's brilliant. I saw the magic happening now. You're collecting all this information. I remember seeing that on Notebook LM from Google and how it can map the data now, but you're doing that for customer feedback. And it's like real-time information, so you pipe the data in as it comes, right?
Yes. You don't have to upload anything manually. I mean, you can. We give customers ability to upload manual data if they want to, because some of them have data that lives in legacy platforms that cannot integrate with anything. But outside of that, if you integrate, everything is automatically pulled in.
No, that's great. That's, I mean, it's an extra feature that you can bring the information, let's say a legacy information now, but then it pulls live, detects the information changing live. Which brings me to my next question. You mentioned about vibe coding and how it can be powerful. You're looking for a book to learn French, and in 20, 30 minutes, you build an app to learn French. So imagine that now coming for Cepien, if you can loop in the customer's complaints, scope them very well, and then feed it to AI, to Cursor, to Claude, or to Devin, or to some of these AI to actually generate the fix. That would be a kind of exceptional short circuit. Very cool, right?
It is cool because we do that.
So you fed. Okay, I'm getting excited here. Tell me about that. You can feed the actual PRDs and tickets information to those AIs.
When we're gonna launch, so we're relaunching our platform with some new agents, and we're not going to feed directly because that requires integrations, and some of them do not integrate well with other platforms. But what we will do, right, is our AI agents will give you an option to generate a clean and intricate and specific prompt for a specific platform. So I've tried Replit, I've tried Base 44, I played with Lovable, I played with Figma Make, I have Gemini. I personally use on a daily basis ChatGPT and Gemini, if you will, on both ends. Depends on what I need. And so what I discovered is every platform has its own nuanced prompt engineering. And if you take the exact same prompt, let's say you created the prompt, you use it for ChatGPT, it was great. If you copy and paste it through every single other platform, it'll give you some other crap. Why? Because every platform, what I noticed, has a very nuanced, specific things in the prompt itself that it either takes it well or it doesn't. And so what our system is going to do, we're going to have code agents that will, by selecting, you can just say, I want this to be built in, let's say, Replit, a recommendation. Let's say that you're a fintech product, you're using a platform, and you found one insight that says your customers are struggling with purchasing a very specific stock on your platform because the purchasing button, like buy, like the actual button buy, is either clashes with your background color, so it's not very visible depending on some accessibility requirements. And that's why you can be losing whatever millions of dollars annually because people cannot buy stock on your platform for this specific company. The recommendation there is change this button to be X, Y, and Z color, so and so sizing, and maybe some rounded corners with an 8 degree angle. And so you can say build this in, I don't know, Replit. Right? Click on the agent saying build this in Replit. What it will do, it will basically just generate you a very specific and nuanced prompt you can drop into Replit, and it will give you that specific button by exact requirements. So you don't have to write the prompt, you can just copy paste it, and it will give you what you need in a very nuanced way.
That's very interesting because imagine you're using an example for a product that's already living and doing fix there. But imagine the early stage founder, how confused they get when getting the actual information of what they should build, and then no one knows how to actually do good prompt engineering when generating their first website or product. Imagine if I could gather all the feedback from my early customers, let's say a bit of Figma like you did, interview like 20 people, use all of this data inside Cepien to give me the exactly playbook to generate the website, the platform that my customers would like. Are you developing that?
To a degree, like in Figma. So we're going to be playing in Figma and Framer. What we're going to be doing is we can actually go and design a wireframe for you in Figma. We can actually go and design a user flow for you in Figma or Framer for that matter. Now, when it comes to, I'm sorry?
Well, both are great examples.
Yeah. But when it comes to vibe coding, right? Lovable, Replit, Base 44, and list of places, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they have APIs that we can plug into. If we can plug into their APIs to write, not just read or whatnot, then yeah, we can allow that. But in the meantime, but in the meantime, we're providing a very nuanced prompt. So you can, instead of like a great example of that, I know somebody in the design industry who became super into vibe coding and vibe coded some interesting products along the way over the last couple of years. But the process of vibe coding that portion of building whatever he built, it took him months. Like literally back and forth with the AI almost on a daily basis. Fix this, change that. This is incorrect. This is what it's supposed to be. You messed up here, right? Like we're using Cursor in my company for building faster, right? And my engineers are all complaining about it. They're all saying that oftentimes this thing will write more crap that I need to clean than it actually provides value, right?
Most of the time.
It still helps, right? To some degree, like one of my engineers that works on our front end basically mapped out Cursor to Figma MCP, and essentially it just does things almost automatically, right? So it really speeds up the process. But at the same time, he still needs to spend a lot of time cleaning the code afterwards.
To review, yes. Same thing
Right.
with human code, right? When you give a
Sure.
task to someone else, you also need to review. But the
But
AI
I'm
adds
talking
a
about the
little extra
promise,
flash.
right? I'm talking about the promise. Courser, Lovable, the old promise, just say what you envision and it will build for you, which is, let's face it, a little bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. They're not sponsoring my channel, so I'm not obliged to speak on favor of them. But we all know the promise there. It is kind of crazy. But this is why I'm asking you, Jan, because if you provide enough context to the AI, the same way that if you provide more context to a human, the
Mhm.
quality of the output would increase. It seems like you have the 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 cheese and the knife there for making this happening. I'm very excited to the prospect of
Well,
having a platform that solves this.
yeah, that's the point, right? Because when our platform generates insight and recommendation, it's a incredibly contextual card, if you will. It looks like a little card, and it will show you the insight, right? What Cepien discovered. It will show you the recommendation, what Cepien thinks you should be doing here. It will give you a list of all of the user issues this specific recommendation addresses. It will give you analytics on which goals it will address or rely on. So it will tell you that this will be impactful to your business goals, product goals, usability goals at X percentile. It also calculates your team effort, how long this might take to a designer or the design team or engineering team. It will also give you which persona ICP this specific recommendation is for. So it gives you an incredibly huge amount of context of if you do this, if you solve this, if you build this, or if you change this, here's all the impact you're going to have.
No, that's great. A quick follow-up question that it is going to do A/B testing as well, like version A, version B of that new website
No,
according to questions. You're not
no.
feeding back the responses on what you have built.
It will feedback. So if we're integrating with places like Jira, Asana, and whatnot on end-to-end, both read and write. So we can track the life cycle of a specific Jira ticket, for instance, in your Jira movement, right? So we can see you took in, or if you ask one of our agents to write you or create Jira tickets into your backlog, it will do that based on the recommendations. And so we can see that you took this ticket, you took it into development, then QA, then production, ship, right? Once it's out there, since our systems are still plugged into all of your integrations, we can see and track, our Cepien can see and track how this thing performs in real life, and then loops back in new insights, new recommendations for that specific thing. So if you shipped something, it will continuously keep learning about the usage and how it performs.
Okay, so eventually I could roll back. It's not like A/B, but I can see how we improve it, or maybe
It will come back to you as another new insight on that specific thing, and it will say that here's what I discovered, here's what needs to be changed or fixed here.
wonderful. We just got a question about the last subject we were speaking about. Bianca, one of the uh, great devs that we have in our community, asking about that idea of using the questions from the clients, the feedbacks as PRD for building features with speed, But she's asking, how do you balance the vibe coding with actual long-term maintainability, like making documentations, unit tests, Have you thought on that, on the vibe coding aspects?
I'll be honest, we haven't thought about that part because that part still, I think, can live outside of our platform. We're not trying to build an operating system for your entire company. Not yet, at least. Who knows? Maybe we will in the future. But that specific portion, I think, is still should be maintained outside of our platform. That's at least my opinion.
Yeah, because the bugs are going to start to pop. The quicker you go in vibe coding, the more depth, technical depth you're getting, right? So
Yes,
it's
that's
right.
why. So I'm gonna take you guys under the hood a little bit, if you will, or the reasoning of us building what we built with coding and vibe coding. It really came from several places. It came from a few of our design partners. It came from some of the people on our advisory board. And mind you, it came from actually one specific, I would say, the one who said it first. One of our advisors is is a former director of data analytics and data science at Braze. And when he saw what we're building with the new platform, he immediately kind of like sat back in his chair. I'm like, hold on a second. Can I use this to just basically take the recommendation and go build something? And I was like, interesting. So vibe coding, the reason why vibe coding creates so many different problems, it's because it's not contextually aware of all of your specifics. Like, you really have to, if you want vibe coding to be successful for you, you're probably going to have to spend several weeks training a specific AI on your contextual knowledge and information. You need to tell it, here's who my ICPs are, my users. This is my industry. This is my product. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to build. This is why I'm trying to build it. Here's all the problems that I found. Like, you need to provide it manually so much context and know-how in order for it to deliver something valuable that actually works. That's why vibe coding is back and forth, because you don't store in your head all of that data and all of that knowledge when you go to build something in Replit. You just like, I want an app to do blah, blah. But then, oh, hold on a second. That's not the right color. That's not the right buttons. That's not the right layout. That doesn't do this. That has a bug here. But all these things can be remedied by knowledge. That knowledge comes from platform. So when we give you that prompt from our platform that generates that prompt, it already has all the information you need to give AI to give you the maximum outcome.
Yeah, that's the key there. Like we are saying, like getting the information about what your customer wants, what's
Yeah.
the context about your company, all of that together. This can help the product, of course, can help vibe coding and all. But I guess we are still quite far from that. Building me a website and then magically appearing like lovables and all. They frame it like.
I joked with my engineer. One of my co-founders went on vacation this week for 3 days, and I joked around that I'm gonna at some point when we hit really, really big, I'm gonna get a neural link to implant in his brain so he can code while he's driving.
Or sleeping.
Or that, well, you can vibe code while you're driving or sleeping or exercising or going to the bathroom.
That could be a great one. Wonderful. Jan, by the way, we're almost at the end of our time frame for this interview. What would be the call to action for either designer or a product expert looking to dive deeper on Sapien AI? How would you recommend getting started, or how people can get the most of it right now?
So right now, if you go to Cepien.ai, you're just going to be met with give us your email, and that's about it, because we pulled back everything since we are pivoted a little bit and rebuilding what I was just talking about. To start with our product, there's no training needed. There is no long onboarding process. Everything is incredibly fast. We built the entire system in such a way that it's very intuitive, it's very simple, it's very fast. So you can, even the integrations, you don't need an engineer for that. You can integrate with all of the available supported applications currently in our platform, which I think is like 14 or 15. But we can integrate with upwards of 300 plus. It's just per request. We don't want to integrate with everything off the bat. If there's a specific tool that you will need once we launch, then you can just make a request, and it typically takes us a couple of weeks to deploy it. But everything is very straightforward and simple. You start with you're going to have a conversation with our platform. There's no onboarding, if you will. You'll just have a conversation. Cepien will ask you some questions. You'll answer questions. Based on that, it will build your profile. And then from there, it will guide you through what you need to do next. And it takes about, on a longer side, it can take maybe 30, 40 minutes to go from creating an account to running it.
That's a great onboarding flow. Sorry
But
about
yeah,
that.
just go to our website right now if you're interested in being among our first customers that with the new platform.
And how long do you expect to launch the new platform?
So right now we're scheduled for about closer to third week of March.
Oh, that's nice.
So in
Give
about a
less
month.
vacation for your devs and you release that earlier, right? Just kidding. 3 days vacation. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, Yan, I would like to thank you for today's interview. Do you want to add anything as a closing message for our audience before I give the final notes?
Don't make the same vibe coding mistakes that I made and expect that everything to be kind of built quick and work well. What I've learned the hard way was that complicated systems, if you're a founder and you're building something more complicated than a simple mobile app or a simple website or e-commerce, it takes time. So just be patient. I was impatient and it really weighed on me. And I've learned that when things are requiring multiple AI systems, API integrations and SDKs and databases and security and whatnot, just it takes time. And so be patient.
Yeah, the complexity of it. Great wisdom, yeah. Thank you very much for sharing,
Of course. Thanks for having me.
for being here today. If you like the content, we invite you to be part of Venture Miner's calendar. I would invite you to join right now in this link, luma.com/ventureminer. We're starting this series of interviews, workshops, boot camps, and hackathons called Vibe Space with great founders like Yan that came here today to share his knowledge. And maybe you in the future will be a founder here with us, building your new product, avoiding all of those vibe coding mistakes that Yan just thought about, maybe fundraising with us and building your product to production. So thank you all for being here. Subscribe now if you haven't to the calendar. Give us a like and subscribe on YouTube as well if you're watching from there. And thank you very much for your participating. Thank you, Yan, for coming with us today or tonight. For you, it was amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wrapping for
Cheers.
tonight. Thank you. Bye.